We are live, and I'm going to ask Josephine Atluri about coping strategies, because that's what you're here to offer us. And why is now a time where it's particularly important for parents to be able to take care of themselves and have some of these coping strategies?
Yes, right now we're still in the thick of all of this uncertainty in life. And so it's really important for us to be able to care for our well-being, because we're the rock of our families, for our children, for our teenagers. And when they look to us, they often model our behavior. And they also look to us to see how we care for ourselves and use that in their own lives. And so it's really important for us to have a number of tools in our self-care toolkit so that we can manage all of the ups and downs that are being thrown at us, all of the uncertainty, and to be able to have just a baseline level of inner calm that we can always go to.
So, Josephine Atluri, you are the mom of 5, a meditation coach, and you have a podcast, Responding to Life. Thanks for being here with us. I want to ask you, what are some of the tools that you would encourage parents, particularly now, to try to integrate into their lives?
Well, the number one technique that I love to advise people right now is a breathing technique. And the reason that this is just so helpful, both in a meditation but also outside of one, is that it is a tool that we can use so quickly to move us from a state of stress into a state of calm. And so, our brain, our nervous system, it's split up into 2. We have the sympathetic nervous system, which is our fight or flight response. And then we have the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our rest and digest. And you can't be in both places at once. So if you get triggered, not by like a lion chasing you, it can just be an email that you received. It could be something that someone said to you. Instantly you're triggered. You're in a state of stress. And you'll feel your heart beating fast. You'll feel your blood pressure. Everything is happening in that moment. But your gateway to get back into a state of relaxation is simply your breath. So if you can take a deep and slow breath and just do that for however long it takes you to noticeably feel like you are entering a state of calm, then you have accessed that, and you can approach whatever situation you're in just a more mindful and a positive way. And so that's definitely one technique that I like to advise people on right now.
And we're going to do that at the very end. We're going to do a very short exercise. So if you're in till the end, you'll get to experience Josephine, and otherwise you can come back and do it later. But hopefully we're all going to end this conversation with a little more calm and maybe an extra tool that we didn't have beforehand. So does this same technique, we know it will work with everybody, but how does a parent convince their teen that this is something they should try?
Yeah, no, so that's a great question. I have a 14-year-old who's my eldest, and he gets very anxious, and they are also teaching mindfulness at school, and they kind of battle it, and they're not into it sometimes. But how I started was by just asking them to do this breathing technique with me, and then I slowly transitioned from that, and that was at the end of the night. They're already starting to wind down. So that's a really great time to introduce something like that versus in the middle of the day when they're busy. They want to hang out with their friends virtually. They have homework to do. So I catch them at the middle, at the end of the night as they're transitioning. We do some breathing techniques. And then from there, then we started to do some apps, because there are just so many apps right now for meditation, but there are also some free resources out there that give free meditations, so that you can try that first before you do an app. And so I started those with the kids, a few years ago when they were a little bit younger, and it helped them to go to sleep. But then I told them that it was a technique that they could use whenever they were starting to feel overwhelmed, whenever they were starting to feel stressed out or upset. And slowly but surely, my 14-year-old has come to me upon occasion and just said, I need you to meditate with me. And like, that is such a
Wow.
big win, which, I mean, all of you out there know when they do something like that, that's a big deal. And I keep it short, just like I keep it short with adults who are trying it as well for the first
What
time.
does short look like? What's like
2 to 3 minutes.
3 minutes?
Yeah.
3 minutes can change your heart rate.
3 minutes can change your heart. I mean, it can change your heart rate in 16 seconds, which we can
Wow.
do at the end. But 3 minutes, you want them to feel like they're able to achieve something, and they'll noticeably feel that with a breathing technique and then just using a mantra to help keep them present and grounded. And that's all it really takes, because all you're doing is you're just building a pathway in your brain and you're practicing it. And it makes it easier for you to access it when you're suddenly triggered, you know? So it's like, it's as if you were practicing a new instrument or a language. If you do it every day, just a couple minutes every day, then when you really need it, you'll be able to get to it faster and you'll know how to. And it's simply just doing a breath. And then there are a whole other bunch of techniques, but the simplest way is to introduce it via the breath,
What if
especially
I'm
for
listening and
teenagers.
I'm kind of rolling my eyes? Like, really?
Yeah.
How do you convert people?
Well, one way that I try to make it applicable to people in daily life is this. So let's say you're dealing with your child and they need your full attention. They're telling you something very important to them, but then all of a sudden you remember something that you need to do for work and you're suddenly out of that moment. So in meditation, this happens all the time. People think that our minds are supposed to be completely empty, which is a reason why so many people don't really want to try to do it, because they feel like they can't shut their mind off. But what happens in meditation actually is that you'll achieve a moment of silence, of stillness, and then you'll think of a to-do list. And all of a sudden, you're in a different place. But in meditation, you're practicing acknowledging the thought and then returning back to your point of focus, which could be your breath, it could be a mantra, it could be a number of things. So the reason this applies to life is that by practicing that in meditation, you're able to apply it in that situation with your teenager. So you get distracted, but he needs you there to speak to you, to help him out. You're able to just gently acknowledge that thought that you just had and then return back to the moment, which is your child speaking to you. So that's how I try to convince people, you know, to give it a shot, because it's all about practice, and it's practicing your mind and your focus.
So you gave this beautiful example of your son. Can you give us an example of yourself, like in that dynamic of kids when life is getting crazy, and like how you kind of pull yourself back into this?
Yes. So I liken it to the eye of a storm. You know, in like a tornado, there's that quiet center, and then all around it, there's chaos and just a swirl of activity. And for me, with a household of 5 kids who are all still remote learning, it is just super chaotic here in the house. And I'll find that if I allow myself to not get grounded at certain points in the day, like in the beginning and then at the end, then I can get caught up in that swirl. But if I allow myself to just take moments throughout the day to just breathe and center myself, then I'm able to be that calm center in that swirl of chaos. And all it can take, you know, is just moments of just pulling myself back and either breathing or being mindful of like some things in nature. It can be something like a walk, a mindful walk, where you're not necessarily meditating, but you're doing something active and you're outside without your phone or not looking at your phone and just being mindful of your surroundings. So it's really just about taking your focus and putting it on something else that isn't busy, right? Like media. So, you know, you don't have to sit in a meditation if that just seems too overwhelming for you right now. It can be something as a nature walk.
I want to point out that even your voice is soothing.
Oh,
Is that something you've worked on, or is
yeah.
that your natural way of interacting?
It's my natural voice, but I always laugh because my children would completely beg to differ.
Okay,
But
so
thank you.
I'm going to give you an example in my life where something happens with my kids. I feel my blood pressure rising. Like I literally feel like the heart rate going quicker. And in that moment, how do I extricate myself? How do I do something to give myself that distance that you talk about?
Right. You can't leave that moment for the most part, right? He needs you there. You're still engaging in that situation. So you could take a literal step back to almost give yourself that physical sense that you've removed yourself, or you can just do it in your mind. And in that moment, that's when I would advise you to start by doing a breathing technique. And there's just so many different ones. So it's not like I'm just trying to teach you just one technique. But in that moment, what you're trying to do initially is to get yourself from that stress state, that triggered state, into a more relaxed and calm state. And you're just doing that through your breath. And then when you get to a little bit more of a calm state, you can still stay where you are, where most likely your teenager is still speaking, right? Because they just need to offload whatever it is that they're trying to get off their chest. And they're speaking, but you are able to just now, in a calmer state, look at the situation and assess what is it that my teenager is really trying to tell me in this moment, and how am I taking this information in, so that when you return back into that moment, you're able to be more open to what they're saying. You are able to approach the situation just in a more mindful and positive way, and you are able to, at the very least, respond in just a calmer tone, because you've moved yourself just a few levels lower in terms of your stress level, to be able to speak to him in a different way.
So it's not even just about de-escalating. It's for your own health, right? Like it's
Yep.
for your own well-being.
Absolutely. Yep. On so
Okay.
many levels.
You've got a house with 5 kids. Do you feel like you're able to create calm right now in the chaos of the world?
Yes. I'll be honest though, there are definitely ups and downs in even just a given day. And I create calmness just by starting off my day just meditating. And I'll do it in bed. I will just turn on an app, or sometimes I'll just guide myself. It depends on how I'm feeling when I wake up. And that's how I start off my day, because it really makes a difference for me. It's kind of like setting a roadmap for how I want to feel for that day. And so I know that I'm able to get it done then. And then I know I'm able to get in moments of calm at the evening, because I do it 2 times a day. And so when my little ones are being put to sleep by my husband, I get in another few minutes of meditation at the end of the day, so that I can transition and then be present for my older kids who are still up. And that's when we engage with one another after school's done. And so I'm able to kind of hit the reset button, because I'm busy working throughout the day. I'm busy homeschooling my little ones throughout the day, that I do need to just sort of clean the slate, so that when I then, go downstairs and hang out with my older 3 kids, I'm able to do that just from a calmer place. And then throughout the day, when I get tired and I get overwhelmed, like I do, and many of you do, I just, I give myself some space and some kindness. And I've learned throughout this pandemic stage to just like be mindful of the signals of myself, of when I'm feeling overwhelmed and when I need to just give myself some space, and then be kind to myself about doing that. So
Can you give us some apps that you use just as suggestions?
yeah, a free one is called Insight Timer, and that one has so many different meditations, different types of things. And if you're willing to just go through and look for them, it's a great resource. And then a popular one that I actually used when I started with my kids was called Headspace. They actually have ones that are geared towards younger kids, and then I think teenagers, but they just have so many different options there. So those are 2 great places to start. And then on my website, I do have a number of free video meditations that you can follow, and they're basically the building blocks of a big meditation. So
Tell us your website.
yep, it's jatluri.com.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you one more question. And then
Yeah.
for those of you who want to stay on, how long are you going to do an exercise? Like,
We'll do it for 5 minutes so you can see just how quickly it takes to center.
okay, you mentioned that it could be shorter. Like,
Yes,
can we
2,
try
3
and do,
minutes.
can we try and do a 3-minute one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's do that. So here's my last question to you. So you got to this because of your own loss in your own life. Can you tell us a little bit about that story and how it led you down this path?
Yeah. So, my husband, he came down with an illness when we were still dating. So that led to us having to go into IVF in order to have children. It didn't work out for several years. We became pregnant. I lost that pregnancy in the second trimester. And then we turned to international adoption, which is where we adopted our first son, who's now 14. And then then decided to try IVF one more time. I carried twins, and they are now 11. And then we worked with a surrogate because we had some frozen embryos, and that is how we came to have our 4-year-old twins. And so, it encompassed 13 years in order to create our family, and it was just, there are many ups and downs throughout the process. And excuse me. And so that's, once I had the five kids, life just became completely chaotic. And I knew that I needed something for my mental and emotional well-being. And that's when I turned to meditation, because I knew there was just something missing in my life. And I started with something as simple as an app, and I immediately saw the results that I just got hooked. And at one point, I needed to just see how much further I could take it just for myself. And that's when I went into a teacher training program, just for like leveling up my own meditation practice. But after taking it, I realized I needed to share this with many other people, not just people, going through infertility, but also parents and kids, because, it's all within our access. We all have our breath within us. So that means that we all have the opportunity to tune into our inner calm and really shift how we perceive the world and how we interact with the world.
All right. Well, Josephine, I'm not so good at this, so I'm going to give you a hard task. I'm going to remove myself and let you do a 3-minute exercise with us, and then I'll just come back on to thank you. So,
okay, perfect.
I don't know how to make you there and not me. I forgot that problem. All right. I guess I'm doing it. I'm doing it with you.
Okay. So just begin wherever you're at. You can just remain seated and then close your eyes. And we'll begin to come into this moment just by taking a long, slow, deep breath in through your nose. And then gently let it out of your mouth. And just continue breathing at your own pace as you begin to settle into this moment of relaxation and peace that you have set aside for yourself. And then on your next inhale, breathe in for a count of 4 seconds. Then exhale for 4 seconds. Now breathe in for 5 seconds. And then exhale for 5 seconds. Now inhale for 6 seconds. And exhale for 6 seconds. And now just allow your breath to return back to a pace that feels comfortable for you. And just witness how the breath is moving in and out of your body. Notice how every inhale that you take, you feel an expansion within. Imagine that expansion is positivity and lightness and happiness filling within you as you take that big deep breath in. And as you exhale, notice how your body is softly melting into the earth beneath you. Allow each exhale that you take as an opportunity to let go of anything that you're holding on to. Any stress, any tension, any worry. Use the power of your exhale to release anything weighing you down. And then before we turn back into our daily lives, I invite you to call to mind something in your life that you're grateful for today. It could be something small like a coffee or something really big that's happened for you. And when you have that gratitude in your mind, take a deep breath in, breathing in the happiness that you feel from that gratitude. And as you exhale, just release it back out into the world. And then whenever you feel ready, gently open your eyes. Welcome back. I hope you feel just so much better. That was just a couple minutes.
Yeah, I first of all, I did not really want to be publicly doing that with you, but I did lose. I lost like that inhibition, and I forgot that I was on the screen with you. So that was really soothing. And Josephine Atluri, I really appreciate you being here with us, and thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.